Teddy Atlas talks Errol Spence car accident and says it'll be a shame if we don't get to see Crawford versus Spence. What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Make sure you smash the like button. Also, subscribe to the channel for the latest and greatest in boxing. If you want to become part of the gang notification gang, please hit the bell icon. Shout out to the super chats, channel donations, the Venmo donations, the Cash app, and the Patreon family. We working. Now, Teddy Atlas, he talked about Errol Spence, and he's talking about, will Errol Spence kind of be the same? We've heard this from just fans in general, coming off of a potential, life, I guess, changing, definitely life. It was risky, the car accident, everything that happened. This is what Teddy Atlas had to say. You don't know how Errol Spence is mentally and emotionally. Seeing your life pass in front of you, think about it. You get back in the ring after seeing your life pass in front of you, you're not going to think nothing of it. No, you're going to think of it. It's not just the physical component of it. You don't know where he is emotionally. If Don King and Arum could work together, anyone can work together, because there was money involved. Of course, you had Manny Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather coming up with crazy life-altering numbers. The only reason that fight happened is because it became so big. Both sides, both networks had to come together to make concessions to come together, and it can be done. So he started discussing the potential for Errol Spence and Crawford. He goes on to say, it would be a shame if we didn't get a chance to see Crawford show his true greatness against the greatest fighters. That would be a shame. It would be. And right now, it's not going to happen because he's on the wrong side of the street. Obviously referring to Crawford re-signing and doing an extension with Top Rank, and the other best welterweights, his contemporary rivals, are with PBC. He says he's Crawford, not on the other side of the street with the promoter PBC that has all those fighters. So something has to give. The first thing that has to give is it needs to be financially big enough of a fight for both sides to come together to start talking about it and to figure it out. He goes on to say, again, the stakes have to be there for them to want to do it. But again, I don't know if it's too powerful a word to say travesty, but it would be a damn shame not to see Crawford's true greatness against the best, the very best. Don't forget the physical part, referring to the car accident that Errol Spence was in. He lost teeth, and it's a miracle. He should be thanking God. I don't tell anyone how to behave in their life, but he should be thanking God that he's alive. Really, I'm thanking God he's alive, but he lost teeth and got a few abrasions, but minimal. Think about what it could have been. But you can't dismiss the emotional aspect of what we're talking about. This guy saw his own life pass in front of him, and he may not be ready to get back into the ring. I'm not saying that I know anything. I don't. But I know what being a human being means. Let me think about it. My life was just given back to me. Let me think about what I'm doing next. So that's the words of Teddy Atlas on his podcast, and make sure you guys check it out. Link is in the description. I think he's posing some fair questions. I think a lot of people out there are questioning, will we get the same Errol Spence Jr.? There were some people like Bob Arum and fans and all types of stuff where they speculated, or they claimed to have sources, that Errol Spence wasn't going to be back possibly ever, or at the very least for a very long time. Errol Spence did show face and was at the Charlo Harrison fight, which was a great card, a great fight in itself. As a main event, I was there. I seen Errol Spence. He looked good. It looks like he's, his weight's not crazy, anything like that. But there were some people questioning how he was talking. Some people were saying, oh, he just got some new teeth, so he's learning to talk with them and make that adjustment. And I hear the concerns, but me, I told you, I'm not going to speak too much on it unless I get something a little bit more concrete. because like Teddy Atlas is saying, Errol Spence is just lucky to be alive. And I heard the tape. I didn't initially because I was live at the fight. So I was right next to the situation in the cameras as they were filming him. So I couldn't hear what he was saying or how he was sounding, but I later watched it on tape, and I seen the comments on Instagram, and people were watching it even after the fight, and they were like, oh man, he sounds different. The thing, as I thought about it, the thing is this: you got to keep in mind, Errol Spence was just in the car accident in October. So the fact that he's walking around and at a fight in December is a miracle in itself, So I can't put too much precedence on the fact that Errol Spence sounded a certain type of way, because again, he just got in this car accident. He fought, I think it was August, September, against Sean Porter, and then he got in a car accident after that, which would have been, I think it was October if I'm not mistaken, because I remember we had those power outages in California. I remember I was actually not at home. I was staying in a hotel because I had no power for a couple of days. So that's not that bad, and that's really not that much time to heal. He's not coming back in January, February. He's talking about the summer of next year. So, I'm not going to overemphasize how he was talking and stuff like that, because realistically, here's an example, and nothing was wrong with my speech, but a couple years ago, I had pneumonia. They said I was walking around, I had walking pneumonia and shit, and I was in bad shape at the hospital or whatever. And it was just bad time. So I was in the hospital for about a week, 5 days, something like that. And it took me a minute to get my wind back up, and to the point where just walking wasn't a chore, because I had fluid in my lungs and stuff like that. So I remember that was a process, just physical therapying myself back to the point where I could go up a flight of stairs without feeling winded because of being bedridden for a week and having pneumonia and having fluid in my lungs and stuff. So imagine being in a car accident where it could have been fatal, and you're out at a leisurely fight, a recreational fight to support a stablemate, and you're doing that a month and a half, 2 months after you. So it really is a miracle. So to me, I'm not going to put too much precedence on how he was speaking and look too far into it. Ultimately, over time, it'll be revealed what he's in. Derek James said he's cool, and he said he's seen him doing some workouts and he looked regular. So, that's all we have to go with. Everything else is speculation. As far as the Crawford fight, I've already mentioned that. I told you my thoughts on that. It's unfortunate, but this is the politics in boxing. You guys know it, I know it. And this I seen coming a mile away, which is why I predicted it on my channel. It will be bad if they never fight, but unfortunately for Crawford and Top Rank, I don't think the fight's going to happen just because they're saying they want it to happen. Like Teddy Atlas is saying, the fight has to be lucrative, has to make sense, and they're going to try to want to make it as big. They don't have to work with Top Rank. There's enough ready-made PBC fights. That's just the reality of it. I'm just here to tell you it blunt. And they don't have to work with. They can make Sean Porter, Errol Spence 2, which, especially after the car accident and everything, that's a big fight. Danny Garcia, Errol Spence, Pacquiao, Errol Spence, Danny Garcia, Pacquiao, if Mikey Garcia comes back. So they have so many options. It's ridiculous at welterweight. So it's not going to necessarily happen on Bob Arum or Top Rank or Terence Crawford's accord, no matter how much they strive and push and say that for it. And truth be told, you can't blame PBC, because if it was up to Arum, he wouldn't do anything different. The reason I know this is because he didn't do anything different. When he had premier guys like Brandon Rios was doing well for himself, Mike Alvarado, he had Pacquiao, he had Timothy Bradley, he had Terence Crawford, Juan Manuel Marquez, Ruslan Provodnikov. He had all these guys, and you never seen any of them step outside the league of Top Rank fights to make no major fight. Pacquiao was fighting guys like Timothy Bradley 3 times. He was fighting guys like Jesse Vargas, who was with Top Rank at the time. You know, a fight I wanted to see instead of Bradley Pacquiao was Pacquiao-Ruslan Provodnikov. But to be honest, it looked like Bob Arum protected Pacquiao from what he felt more dangerous fights. You know, Ruslan's he's willing to go out on his shield, and he's a heavy hitter. So how come Ruslan Provodnikov versus Pacquiao was never made? You know, but they made Brandon Rios versus Pacquiao. I wanted to see it because I heard from the Freddie Roach stories, Pacquiao and Ruslan had wars in the gym. You know, how come Pacquiao versus Terence Crawford was never made when they were both with Top Rank? You have to ask yourself these questions. So now that Top Rank has ran out of players to match Terence Crawford with, we can't cry now and say, oh, you know, PBC must, you know, come to Terence Crawford and Top Rank's beck and call. Because when Top Rank had the juice and had all these welterweights, we weren't watching those. I didn't get to see. I wanted to see Brandon Rios versus Broner. Broner had called out Juan Manuel Marquez. We didn't get any of those fights, but we did get Marquez versus Mike Alvarado. 3 fights with Mike Alvarado and Brandon Rios. Mike Alvarado and Ruslan Provodnikov. Notice the trend? So now that all the welterweights are primarily built up and branded, and you know, the biggest fights outside of the biggest fighters in the welterweight division outside of Crawford and the guys with the big brands are with PBC. So it is what it is. This politics. Let me know what you guys think. Teddy Atlas podcast is in the description box. If you love what I'm doing, smash the like button. As always, hate, comment, and subscribe. Till next video is Ego signing off.
So if you enjoyed this video and want more content like this on the channel, you can show your appreciation by going to the PayPal donate button or the YouTube support button. And you can donate any amount that you feel is equivalent to the value of this video. Much more to come. Thank you guys for your support. Boxing Ego, the future of boxing.